I was just holding the family photo to dust it. He snatched it from my hands, growling like he'd caught me with stolen goods. The frame crashed down, and a thin envelope slipped from behind the backing. "Put it down," Cal hissed through clenched teeth, but his eyes weren't on me. They were on the envelope. Perhaps, after all these years of being treated like a freeloader in the very house my father left behind, the answer had been there all along, hidden behind a photograph, concealed by hands too familiar with violence. I picked up the envelope. From that moment, Cal Whitaker's countdown began. My name is Noelle Hart, and at 33, I never imagined I'd be living in my childhood home again, especially not as a guest in what everyone now calls the Whitaker house. The irony wasn't lost on me. This two-story colonial in Riverton's quiet Maple Grove neighborhood had been in the Hart family for 3 generations. My father, Thomas Hart, had paid off the mortgage 5 years before cancer took him. Now, 7 years after his death, the mailbox read Whitaker, and I had to ask permission to hang my coat in the front closet. I'd moved back 6 months ago after my divorce from Marcus. What was supposed to be temporary shelter while I rebuilt my life had become an exercise in daily humiliation. As a records control specialist at Oak Ridge Medical Group, I made decent money, enough to cover most of the groceries, utilities, and even the property taxes my mother somehow never had cash for anymore. Yet Cal never missed an opportunity to remind me I was living under his roof. "Family helps family," he'd say, usually while counting the cash I just handed him for the electric bill. But family also knows their place. Cal Whitaker had swept into my mother's life 4 years ago like a savior in khaki pants and polo shirts. Elaine Hart had been drowning in loneliness and unpaid bills she didn't understand. Cal, a retired insurance adjuster with a silver tongue and firm handshake, promised to take care of everything. Within 8 months, they were married. Within a year, he'd moved into our house and started reorganizing our lives. The house felt different now. Dad's study, once filled with his legal books and fishing trophies, had become Cal's domain. The door stayed locked, and I was forbidden from entering. "A man needs his private space," Cal would say, jangling his keys like a prison guard. The family photos lining the hallway had been rearranged, with Cal's pictures prominently displayed while Dad's were relegated to dusty corners. His son Bryce treated the place like a hotel, showing up whenever he needed money or a place to crash between jobs. At 28, Bryce had mastered the art of failing upward. Each business venture funded by Cal, and ending in mysterious circumstances. He'd sprawl on the leather couch Dad had saved for, the one where we used to read together, leaving potato chip crumbs and empty beer bottles for me to clean up. "Noelle doesn't mind," Cal would say when Mom weakly protested. "She's grateful to have a roof over her head." Grateful. The word tasted bitter every time I swallowed it down with my morning coffee in the kitchen where Dad had taught me to make pancakes. I watched my mother fade into Cal's shadow. Her opinions prefaced with "Cal thinks," and her decisions deferred to "whatever Cal says." The vibrant woman who'd once run the hospital fundraising committee now needed permission to buy groceries. The financial fog was deliberate, I realized. Joint accounts that only Cal monitored, bills that arrived and disappeared into his study, Mom's signature on documents she never read. "Don't worry your pretty head about it," he'd tell her, patting her hand like she was a child. "That's what husbands are for." But I noticed things. The property tax bills addressed to Calvin Whitaker, the insurance statements with beneficiary changes, the way Cal's jaw tightened whenever I asked about household expenses, despite my paying more than my share. "You know, Noelle," Cal said one evening, swirling whiskey in one of Dad's crystal glasses, "your mother and I have been thinking, maybe it's time you considered getting your own place. A woman your age, living with her parents. Well, it doesn't look right." Parents, plural, as if he'd been there for my first day of school, my college graduation, my wedding, as if he'd earned the right to call this house his home. The next morning, I found him photographing Dad's bookshelves with his phone. When I asked why, he smiled that cold insurance adjuster smile. "Just documenting our assets. You can never be too careful. Our assets, our house, our family. That's when I knew. Cal Whitaker wasn't just living in my father's house. He was erasing him from it, one piece at a time. Saturday morning arrived with gray clouds and the smell of rain. Mom had gone to her book club, one of the few activities Cal still allowed, and he was supposedly at the hardware store. I seized the opportunity to clean the living room, a task I'd been putting off to avoid his scrutiny. The family photos on the mantel were covered in dust. I picked up the largest frame, a portrait from my parents' 20th anniversary, Dad's arm wrapped around Mom's shoulders, both of them glowing with happiness I hadn't seen in her eyes for years. The glass needed replacing. A crack ran diagonally across their faces like a scar. I carefully worked the backing tabs open, planning to take the glass to get it cut properly. As I lifted the cardboard backing, something fluttered. A cream-colored envelope, thin as tissue paper, hidden between the photo and the frame. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Cal's voice cracked like a whip. He stood in the doorway, hardware store bag forgotten on the floor, his face flushed with rage. "I'm cleaning," I said, still holding the frame. "The glass is cracked." He crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed for the frame. "That's not yours to touch." "It's my parents' photo." His hand connected with my cheek in a sharp slap that sent me stumbling backward. The frame flew from my hands, shattering on the hardwood floor. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard him breathing hard, saw his eyes fixed on something among the broken glass. "The envelope?" We both lunged for it. My fingers closed on the paper first, and I rolled away, clutching it to my chest. Cal grabbed my wrist, trying to pry my fingers open. "Give it to me," he snarled. "You have no right." "No right?" I yanked free and scrambled to my feet. "In my father's house?" His face went from red to white. I looked down at the envelope in my hands. My name was written on it in Dad's careful script. "For Noelle, the truth about your inheritance." My hands shook as I tore it open, backing away from Cal. Inside was a single page, handwritten, and a receipt from Riverton State and Trust for a safety deposit box. "Noelle," Dad's handwriting began. "If you're reading this, something has happened to our family's security. The house is yours when you turn 30, held in trust. Your mother has lifetime residency rights. I've attached the codicil to my will and box information. The original documents are safe. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." The codicil was there, dated 2 years before his death, properly witnessed and notarized. The house would transfer to me, had already transferred to me 3 years ago on my 30th birthday, only I'd never known. Cal's face had gone gray. "You don't understand," he started. "Your mother needed—" "Get out," I said quietly. "Now listen here." "Get out!" I screamed, and for the first time in months, I felt my father's strength in my voice. Cal stood there, fists clenched, calculation flickering across his face. Then he turned and stalked to his study, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I grabbed my keys and phone, taking pictures of my stinging cheek in the hallway mirror. The red handprint was already blooming into a bruise. I photographed the broken frame, the scattered glass, the envelope and documents. Then I drove straight to Marin O'Keefe's apartment. "Jesus, Noelle," she breathed when she opened the door. Marin worked as a paralegal at Hutchinson and Associates, and we'd been friends since high school. She pulled me inside, already reaching for ice from her freezer. "I need to go to urgent care," I said, showing her the documents. "I need this documented, and then I need your help." Her eyes widened as she read. "This is... Noelle. This changes everything. We need to make copies now. Email them to yourself, to me. Timestamp everything." She was already pulling out her phone. "And we're going to urgent care right now. I'm driving." As we left her apartment, I looked back at the envelope that had been hidden behind my parents' happy faces for who knows how long. Dad had known something might happen. He'd prepared for it. The countdown I'd mentioned? It had already begun. Cal Whitaker just didn't know it yet. At urgent care, I told them the truth. My stepfather hit me when I found documents he'd been hiding about my inheritance. The nurse's eyes were kind but professional as she documented everything, took photographs, and gave me a case number. "You might want to file a police report," she said quietly. "I will," I promised. "But first, I need to find out exactly what he's been hiding." Marin's dining table became our war room. Legal pads, laptops, and empty coffee cups covered every surface as we pieced together the paper trail Cal had tried to hide. "First rule of evidence," Marin said, arranging documents chronologically. "Create an unbreakable chain. Email these photos to yourself right now. CC me, and we'll print hard copies. The timestamps are crucial." I did as she instructed, creating multiple backups of Dad's letter, the codicil, and the safety deposit box receipt. The urgent care report was already in the system. Case number ER 2024-0847. Now, Marin pulled up a legal database on her laptop. "Let's figure out what Cal's been up to. Tell me about the refinancing." I closed my eyes, remembering. About 18 months after they married, Cal said the house needed major repairs. The roof, the foundation. Suddenly everything was failing. He had contractors come by, got estimates. Mom was overwhelmed by the numbers. "Did you see these contractors, the estimates?" "Some of them, but Cal handled everything. Said it was easier to refinance than drain their savings. Mom signed papers in the kitchen one night. Cal had a notary friend there. Everything happened so fast." Marin's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Property records are public. Let's see. Here, the house was refinanced 18 months ago. Original mortgage was paid off by your father in 2016. But this shows a new primary mortgage of $275,000 and—" She stopped. "Oh, Noelle." "What?" "There's a second mortgage, $150,000, taken out 6 months later." She turned the screen toward me. "Both list Elaine Hart Whitaker and Calvin Whitaker as borrowers, but look at the signature pages." I leaned in. Mom's signature looked off. The E in Elaine was too sharp. The loops in her L's too wide. "That's not right." "And here," Marin pulled up another document. "Power of attorney, filed the same week as the refinance. It gives Cal complete financial authority if your mother is temporarily incapacitated. Very broad language." My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Where are you? Cal is very upset. Please come home so we can talk like adults." I showed Marin. "Don't respond yet," she advised. "We need more information. Can you access any of the household financial records?" "Cal keeps everything in his study, locked." "What about your mom's records? Old tax returns? Insurance statements?" I thought hard. Mom used to keep files in the basement, in Dad's old filing cabinet. Cal might not have found them. "We need those, but first," Marin created a new document. "Write down everything you remember about the refinancing, dates, people present, what was said, while it's fresh." As I typed, fragments came back. Cal's insistence that Mom was too emotional to read the documents carefully, the way he'd shuffled papers, pointing where to sign, his notary friend, a nervous man who'd barely looked at Mom's ID. "I found the notary," Marin announced. "Robert Hendricks. His license was suspended last year for—" Interesting. Multiple instances of improper notarization. He's Cal's golf buddy, right? "Every Sunday at Gray County Country Club." "Good. Now, about that safety deposit box. We need to get to the bank Monday morning. Bring your ID, the receipt, and death certificate. If your dad set it up right, you should have access." I pulled up my banking app. I've been paying the household bills from my account and transferring money to Mom's joint account with Cal. Look, I showed her the history. I've paid nearly $30,000 in the last 6 months. Utilities, groceries, even the property taxes. "Screenshot everything. That's evidence of your financial contribution while they're claiming you're a freeloader." Marin made notes. "What about the insurance?" "What insurance?" "The homeowner's insurance. If Cal's taken out loans against the house, he might have changed the beneficiaries or coverage." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Last week, I'd seen a voicemail notification on the kitchen phone from Federated Insurance about policy changes. Cal had deleted it before I could listen. "There's something else," I said slowly. Cal's been photographing everything in the house. Said he was documenting assets. What if... He's preparing for a claim, Marin finished. Classic insurance fraud setup. Inflate the values. Maybe even stage a loss. My phone rang. Cal's number. I declined it. Okay, Marin said. Lawyer mode fully engaged. Here's what we do. Tomorrow. You go back for clothes and essentials. Take me with you. Witness protection. We get whatever financial records we can find. Monday. We hit the bank and file for a restraining order based on the assault. Then we dig deeper. What about Mom? Marin's expression softened. She's been manipulated. Noelle, financial abuse is real, but right now, we need to protect your inheritance and your safety. Once we have all the facts, we can help her too. Another text, this time from Cal. Your behavior is unacceptable. If you're not home by 6 p.m., I'll have to take appropriate measures. Appropriate measures? I laughed bitterly. Like stealing my house wasn't measure enough. He's panicking, Marin observed. Good. Panicked people make mistakes. Save that text. It could be construed as a threat. As we prepared for the next day's document retrieval mission, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Cal Whitaker had built his castle on stolen ground, but the foundation was crumbling. Hey, Marin said as I gathered my things. Your dad would be proud. You're fighting back. I touched the bruise on my cheek, already purple-black. He knew this might happen. He prepared for it. Smart man. Apple didn't fall far from the tree. Tomorrow, we'd return to the house that should have been mine 3 years ago, but this time, I wouldn't be arriving as a guest. Sunday morning arrived with Cal's escalating campaign. My phone showed 17 missed calls and a string of texts ranging from threatening to conciliatory. The latest, your mother is worried sick. This childish behavior ends now. Marin picked me up at 9. Ready? As I'll ever be. I touched the concealer hiding the worst of the bruise. Let's go. The house looked different somehow, like seeing a familiar painting from a new angle. Cal's Mercedes sat in the driveway, in the spot where Dad used to park. Remember, Marin said, I'm recording everything on my phone. Stay calm. Get what you need. Get out. Mom answered the door, her face puffy from crying. Noelle, honey, where have you been? Cal said you attacked him. Mom, look at me. I pointed to my cheek. Really look. Her eyes widened, then quickly darted away. I'm sure it was a misunderstanding. You know how Cal gets when people touch his things. Dad's things. Mom, in Dad's house. Our house, Cal's voice boomed from behind her. He filled the doorway, wearing his weekend golf attire like armor. And you're trespassing. I live here, I said evenly. I'm getting my belongings. The hell you are. He stepped forward, but Marin cleared her throat. Mr. Whitaker, I'm here as a witness. Any attempt to prevent Ms. Hart from retrieving her personal items could be construed as unlawful restraint. Cal's jaw worked. You brought a lawyer? A friend, I corrected. Who happens to know the law? The standoff lasted seconds that felt like hours. Finally, Cal stepped aside. 15 minutes, then I call the police. Please do, Marin said pleasantly. I'm sure they'd be interested in yesterday's assault. I moved quickly, gathering clothes and toiletries while Marin stayed close. In my room, I grabbed the banker's box from my closet. Old tax returns, pay stubs, anything financial I'd saved. The basement, I whispered. I'll distract them. Marin headed back to the living room. Mrs. Whitaker, could I trouble you for a glass of water? I'm on medication that makes me terribly thirsty. I slipped downstairs. Dad's filing cabinet sat dusty and forgotten behind Cal's golf clubs. The key was still where Dad hid it, taped under the bottom drawer, inside. Jackpot. Mom's old tax returns, insurance policies, even the original deed to the house. A folder marked estate planning made my hands shake. Inside, correspondence between Dad and his attorney about the trust, about protecting the house for me. The last letter, dated a month before his diagnosis. outlined his concerns about Mom's vulnerability to financial predators. My phone buzzed. Marin. Hurry, he's getting agitated. I stuffed everything into a garbage bag, my heart pounding. As I turned to leave, I noticed Cal's golf bag had tipped over, club covers scattered across the floor, and underneath, a manila envelope marked EH insurance claim pending. I photographed it and ran. Upstairs, Cal was ranting. Manipulation of a grieving widow. You've poisoned her against me, filled her head with lies. We're leaving, I announced, garbage bag in hand. His face purpled. What's in the bag? My property. Everything in this house is marital property. You're stealing from your mother. Actually, Marin interjected, personal documents aren't marital property, especially those predating the marriage. Cal lunged for the bag. I stepped back, and he stumbled, catching himself on the doorframe. Cal, Mom cried. You see? He roared. She's violent, unstable. We're done here. I headed for the door, but Cal's next words stopped me cold. You think you're smart? That codicil's worthless. Your mother already signed the house over to me. Power of attorney, remember? She was having one of her episodes, couldn't possibly make financial decisions. What episodes? I turned. Mom's never had... The confusion, the memory lapses. Dr. Morrison has been treating her for months. Terrible thing. Early onset dementia. His smile was reptilian. Good thing I was here to take care of things. Mom's face went white. I don't have... Of course not. Sweetheart, Cal's voice dripped honey, but the medical records say otherwise. And who's going to believe a confused woman and her disgruntled daughter over documented medical evidence? Marin's hand on my arm was all that kept me from doing something stupid. Let's go, she said quietly. In the car, I shook with rage. He's having her declared incompetent. He's... Creating false medical records is a felony, Marin said grimly. We need to find this Dr. Morrison. But first, look at this. She showed me her phone. While I'd been in the basement, she'd been recording. The whole conversation, including Cal's admission about using the power of attorney while claiming Mom had episodes. He just confessed to fraud, she said. My phone rang. An unknown number. Ms. Hart? This is Patricia from Federated Insurance. I'm calling about your homeowner's policy. We received a concerning claim for water damage, but our adjuster found some discrepancies. The repair invoices from 6 months ago? They're for work that was never done. We need to discuss this immediately. I put her on speaker. What kind of discrepancies? The contractor listed doesn't exist. The invoice numbers are sequential, clearly fabricated. Someone filed for $85,000 in repairs that never happened. The claim is signed by a Calvin Whitaker, but the policy owner is listed as Elaine Hart. We've opened a fraud investigation. Marin and I exchanged looks. Thank you, I managed. Can we meet tomorrow? Absolutely. And Ms. Hart, you might want to check if any other claims have been filed. This may not be the first. As we drove away, I saw Cal watching from the window, phone pressed to his ear, planning his next move, no doubt. He's going to escalate, Marin warned. Let him, I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. Monday morning, we get Dad's documents from the bank, then we blow his whole scheme wide open. What about your mom? I looked back at the house, my house, where my mother was trapped with a man who'd convinced her she was losing her mind. We're going to save her, I said, but first, we need to destroy him. Monday morning at Riverton State and Trust felt like walking into a vault of secrets. The bank manager, Mrs. Dorothy Klein, examined my documentation with methodical precision. Ms. Hart, I remember your father, she said, adjusting her glasses. He was very specific about this box. Your ID, please. I handed over my driver's license and passport. Dad had always insisted I keep both current. The death certificate and safety deposit box receipt completed the requirements. Everything's in order, she stood. Follow me, please. Marin squeezed my hand as we descended to the vault. The familiar smell of metal and old paper triggered memories of coming here with Dad when I was young, watching him handle important documents with reverence. Box 447 was smaller than I'd expected. Inside, a leather portfolio with Dad's initials and a letter addressed to me. "Take your time," Mrs. Klein said, showing us to a private room. My hands trembled as I opened the letter. "My dear Noelle, if you're reading this, you found the breadcrumbs I left. The house is yours, held in trust until your 30th birthday. By now, that day has passed. The original trust documents, will and codicil, are all here, properly executed and witnessed by Judge Raymond Hartley and Margaret Chen, my attorney. I've also included documentation that might become necessary. Receipts for every major repair done to the house. The roof was replaced in 2015, foundation work completed in 2016, all paid in full. Insurance policies, and property tax records through 2018. Protect your mother. She loves too easily and trusts too much. The house ensures you'll both always have a home. All my love, Dad." The documents were pristine, an irrevocable trust naming me as beneficiary. The original will with the codicil clearly stating the house would transfer to me at age 30, with Elaine Hart having lifetime residency rights. No spouse or future spouse could claim ownership. "This is ironclad," Marin breathed. "Look at the witnesses. A judge and an attorney. Cal's forged documents won't stand against these." But there was more. A folder marked Insurance Claims History showed something disturbing. 2 claims filed in 2017 before Dad's death, for storm damage. Both marked fraudulent, denied, with investigation notes. Damage appears intentionally inflicted. Claimant Thomas Hart cleared of involvement. Third party suspected. Cal was already trying to scam insurance before Dad died. I realized. He must have been sniffing around Mom even then. "There's a pattern," Marin noted. "Look, he was named in a lawsuit in 2014 for insurance fraud at his previous address. Case settled out of court." My phone buzzed. "Patricia from Federated Insurance. Can you meet at 2 p.m.? Bring all documentation." We made copies of everything at the bank, keeping originals in the box for safety. Mrs. Klein provided certified copies with the bank's seal. "Your father was a careful man," she said as we left. "He'd be proud of you for fighting back." Our next stop was the courthouse. Marin had prepared the restraining order petition over the weekend. The clerk's eyes widened at the photos of my bruised face and the medical documentation. "Emergency orders are reviewed within 24 hours, she explained. "Given the evidence of assault and the housing dispute, I'd say you have strong grounds." As we waited for the filing confirmation, my phone exploded with texts. "Mom, Cal says you're trying to steal the house. Please come home and talk." Then Cal, "Your little games end now. Dr. Morrison is prepared to testify about your mother's condition. Back off, or I'll have her committed." "He's threatening to institutionalize her." I showed Marin. "Forward that to me immediately. That's extortion." She was already typing. "We need to find out who this Dr. Morrison is." A quick search revealed Dr. Eugene Morrison, a semi-retired general practitioner with an office in the strip mall on Route 47. 1-star reviews dominated his online presence. "Pill mill. Signs anything for cash. Lost his hospital privileges. Cal's pet doctor," Marin concluded. "Probably creates whatever medical records Cal needs." The insurance office was our last stop. Patricia DeWitt, a sharp-eyed investigator, had spread files across a conference table. "Ms. Hart, we found $127,000 in suspicious claims over the past 18 months. Roof repairs, water damage, foundation work, all filed by Mr. Whitaker using your mother's policy." She tapped a folder. "The contractors listed are either non-existent or deny doing the work. Several invoices were created using basic templates available online." I laid out Dad's receipts. The roof and foundation were legitimately repaired and paid for years ago. Patricia's eyes gleamed. "This is exactly what we needed. Mr. Whitaker has been double-dipping, claiming repairs for work already completed." She pulled out another file. There's more. He recently inquired about increasing coverage limits and adding mysterious valuable items to the policy. Classic preparation for a major claim. What happens now? Marin asked. We're denying all pending claims and opening a criminal fraud investigation. The State Insurance Commission will be notified. Mr. Whitaker will receive formal notice within 48 hours. She paused. I'd also advise you to secure the property. In cases like this, perpetrators sometimes attempt to create actual damage to justify their claims. We left with copies of everything and Patricia's direct number. In the parking lot, I felt dizzy with the weight of evidence we'd accumulated. We have enough to bury him, Marin said, but we need to move fast. He's cornered, and cornered animals are dangerous. My phone rang. Mom, crying. Cal's packing his things. He says you've ruined everything. He says we'll lose the house because of the mortgages. Noelle, what have you done? I'm protecting our home, Mom, Dad's home. Trust me, please. He's calling lawyers, screaming about suing you. Bryce is here too. They're in the study, shredding papers. They're destroying evidence, Marin said. We need to... A text from an unknown number interrupted. You think you've won? Check your credit report. Bitch, love, Bryce. My blood ran cold. If they'd stolen my identity too. One crisis at a time, Marin said firmly. We stick to the plan. Wednesday's family dinner is our endgame. By then, we'll have everything in place. As we drove back to Marine's apartment, I clutched the portfolio containing my inheritance. The truth Dad had hidden so carefully, waiting for me to be strong enough to use it. The countdown was accelerating. In 2 days, Cal Whitaker would sit at my father's table for the last time. Wednesday evening arrived with the weight of a final showdown. I stood in Marin's apartment, checking my phone one last time. Everything was in place. Patricia DeWitt from Federated Insurance would arrive at 7 p.m. Officer Janet Rodriguez was parked 2 houses down, and the locksmith was on standby. Remember, Marin coached, stay calm. Let him think he's in control. The recording app is running on both our phones. I'd texted Mom that morning. Family dinner tonight, 6 p.m. I want to make peace. Cal had immediately responded from her phone. Good. It's time you learned respect. The house glowed with false warmth when we arrived. Mom had set the table with her wedding china, trying to pretend this was just another family meal. Cal sat at the head, in Dad's chair, wearing his best blazer-like battle armor. Bryce lounged nearby, smirking. Well, Cal said, not standing, the prodigal daughter returns. I placed my bag carefully on the side table, portfolio inside, documents ready. Hello, Cal, Mom, Bryce. Sit, Cal commanded. Your mother worked hard on dinner. We took our places. The pot roast smelled like childhood, but my stomach churned. Mom's hands shook as she served. So, Cal began, cutting his meat with precision. I trust you've come to your senses. This foolishness with lawyers and banks, it ends tonight. Yes, I said simply. It does. His eyebrows rose. Good. Then you'll sign these. He produced a stack of papers. You're formally renouncing any claim to this house and agreeing to vacate within 30 days. In exchange, I won't press charges for theft and harassment. Marin leaned forward. May I? Who invited you? Bryce snapped. I did, I said. She's here as a witness, just like Officer Rodriguez outside, and Ms. DeWitt from Federated Insurance, who should be arriving any moment. Cal's fork clattered against his plate. What game are you playing? I pulled out the portfolio, laying documents on the table like cards in a poker hand. No game, just truth. Here's the original trust document, establishing the house transferred to me 3 years ago. Here's the codicil to Dad's will, both witnessed by Judge Hartley. Forgeries, Cal sputtered. Certified by the bank. Would you like to see the seal? I continued laying out papers. Here are the fraudulent insurance claims you filed. $127,000 for repairs that were done years ago. Patricia will explain the criminal penalties when she arrives. Mom gasped. Cal? Shut up, Elaine. His mask slipped. You don't understand. Here's the recorded conversation where you admitted to using her power of attorney while claiming she had episodes. I played the audio on my phone. Cal's voice filled the room. She was having one of her episodes. Couldn't possibly make financial decisions. I've never had episodes, Mom whispered. And here, I placed the mortgage documents down. Are the signatures on the refinancing? Marin, would you like to share the preliminary handwriting analysis? The signature identified as Elaine Hart Whitaker shows 17 points of divergence from known samples. Marin read from her phone. Consistent with forgery. Cal shot to his feet. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can... I stayed seated, voice steady. Your notary friend, Robert Hendricks? His license was revoked for improper notarization. He's already talking to investigators to save himself. The doorbell rang. That would be Ms. DeWitt, I said. Mom answered the door in a daze. Patricia DeWitt entered, professional and poised. Mr. Whitaker? I'm here to inform you that Federated Insurance has denied all pending claims and referred your case to the Fraud Division. You'll receive formal notice within... Get out of my house, Cal roared. Your house? I stood slowly. Let me clarify something. This is the Hart House. It's been the Hart House for 3 generations, and as of 3 years ago, it's legally mine. I pulled out the deed transfer. Mom, you have lifetime residency rights. You'll always have a home here. But Cal, you're trespassing. Mom, are you going to let her do this? Bryce whined. The mortgages, Mom said faintly. Cal said we'd lose everything. The mortgages obtained through fraud are voidable, Marin explained. We're working with the bank to unwind them, the forged signatures alone. Enough! Cal swept the dishes off the table, sending china crashing. You think you're so smart? Your mother needs me. She can't handle finances, can't even remember to pay bills. Because you hid them, I shot back. Controlled the money, made her dependent. That's what abusers do. Cal lunged toward me, but Officer Rodriguez chose that moment to enter. Everything all right here? Officer, thank God. Cal immediately shifted to victim mode. These people are harassing me in my home. Actually, I said, pulling out the restraining order, you're violating this emergency protective order by being within 100 feet of me. It was granted Monday. Rodriguez examined the order. Mr. Whitaker, you need to leave the premises immediately. This is my house. No, I said, producing the locksmith's card. It's not, and in about 20 minutes, the locks will reflect that. Cal's face went purple. Elaine, tell them! Mom looked at him, then at the shattered china, the scattered evidence of his crimes. Get out, Cal. What? You heard me. Her voice grew stronger. Get out of my husband's house. You senile bitch! Rodriguez stepped forward. Sir, you can leave voluntarily, or I can arrest you for violating the protective order. Your choice. Bryce jumped up. Dad, let's just go. We'll call Uncle Pete. Sit down, Cal snarled at his son, then turned back to us. You've made a serious mistake. I'll take everything. Mr. Whitaker, Patricia DeWitt interrupted calmly. I should mention that threatening witnesses in an insurance fraud investigation is inadvisable, especially when being recorded. Cal's eyes darted to our phones, to the officer's body camera. The fight drained from him like air from a punctured tire. Pack a bag, Officer Rodriguez said. You have 10 minutes. As Cal stomped upstairs, Bryce trailing behind, Mom sank into a chair. The mortgages. We'll lose. No, Mom. I knelt beside her. The fraudulent mortgages will be challenged. The house is protected in trust. You're safe. You've always been safe. Dad made sure of it. The locksmith arrived as Cal dragged suitcases down the stairs. He stopped at the door, turning for one last threat, but Rodriguez's hand on her radio silenced him. Your belongings will be available for pickup at the police station, Marin informed him, after we've documented everything for evidence. The door closed. The locksmith went to work. Within minutes, new keys gleamed in my palm. It's over, Mom whispered. The criminal part is just beginning, Patricia corrected. But yes, your home is safe. I walked to the mantel and picked up the photo that had started everything. Mom and Dad on their 20th anniversary. The cracked glass had been replaced. Behind it, I tucked one of the new keys. "Welcome home," I said to their smiling faces. Then, louder, to everyone. "Welcome to the Hart House." The locksmith's drill whirred like a countdown timer. Each turn of the mechanism stripped away another layer of Cal's claim to my father's house. I stood in the doorway, new keys growing warm in my palm, as the final tumblers clicked into place. "All set," the locksmith announced. "New deadbolts, new knobs. Nobody's getting in without these keys." Cal hadn't gone quietly. He stood on the lawn, red-faced and shouting, while Officer Rodriguez maintained position between him and the house. Bryce loaded their hastily packed bags into the Mercedes, shooting venomous looks our way. "This isn't over," Cal bellowed. "I want my belongings, my files." "Your files are evidence now," Patricia DeWitt said coolly, documenting the contents of his study with her phone. "The criminal investigation requires—" "Criminal?" Cal's voice cracked. "I'm the victim here. That woman," he pointed at Mom. "She needed my help. Without me, she'd have lost everything." Actually, Marin stepped onto the porch, holding a tablet. "Let's discuss that. Mrs. Hart, were you aware your husband opened credit cards in your name?" Mom's face drained of color. "What?" "3 cards, Max Out Visa, Premier MasterCard, Quick Cash Rewards, total debt, $47,000. All opened using your Social Security number." Marin showed her the screen. "The applications claim you're employed as a consultant, making $150,000 annually." "I haven't worked since the hospital cut positions 5 years ago," Mom whispered. I felt the ground shift. Bryce's taunt about checking my credit report suddenly made terrible sense. "He stole her identity. Mom, we need to freeze your credit immediately." "Don't you dare!" Cal started toward us, but Rodriguez blocked him. "Sir, step back. Final warning." Patricia's phone rang. She listened, then smiled grimly. "Mr. Whitaker?" "That was my office. We found 6 more fraudulent claims across 3 different insurance companies, all using variations of your wife's name. The State Fraud Division is very interested in speaking with you." The Mercedes engine roared to life, Bryce behind the wheel, panicking. "Dad, get in! Just get in!" But Cal wasn't finished. "Elaine, you're making a mistake. Remember what Dr. Morrison said? Your episodes, the confusion, you need supervision." "Dr. Morrison?" Officer Rodriguez said thoughtfully. "Would that be Eugene Morrison? Lost his license in Pennsylvania for writing false disability claims?" Cal's mouth opened and closed like a landed fish. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, stepping forward. My voice carried the same authority Dad used in his courtroom days. "You're going to leave, now. Any belongings not involved in the fraud investigation will be available for pickup through your attorney. You will not contact my mother except through legal channels. You will not set foot on this property." "Or what?" Cal sneered. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Or I'll ensure every golf buddy at Gray County Country Club knows exactly why you were escorted off Hart property by police, how you stole from a widow, forged documents, created fake medical records to gaslight a vulnerable woman." I pulled out my phone. "I have the club directory right here. Should I start with the membership committee?" His face went white. Social standing at the country club was everything to Cal Whitaker. His entire identity wrapped around those Sunday golf games, the bourbon in the locker room, the veneer of respectability. "You wouldn't." "Try me." I scrolled through names. "Maybe I'll start with Judge Hartley. You remember? He witnessed Dad's will. I'm sure he'd be fascinated to hear how you tried to steal what he helped protect." "Get in the car, Dad!" Bryce's voice pitched high with fear. Patricia stepped closer. "Mr. Whitaker, you should also know that insurance fraud over $100,000 is a federal crime. The FBI takes particular interest in schemes that cross state lines. Those fake contractors you created? Several had addresses in New Jersey. That broke him. Cal stumbled toward the Mercedes like a drunk man. At the curb, he turned for one last look. At the house, at Mom, at the life he'd built on lies. 3 years, he said hoarsely. 3 years I took care of this place. Of her? This is the thanks I get? 3 years you plotted to steal it, I corrected. While Dad's trust was counting down to protect us from exactly this, he saw you coming, Cal, even from his deathbed. He beat you. The Mercedes peeled away, leaving black marks on the asphalt Dad had sealed himself one summer when I was 12. Mom stood frozen on the porch. I wrapped my arms around her. It's over, Mom. He's gone. The bills, the mortgages, I signed things. Oh God, what did I sign? We'll fix it, Marin assured her. Every fraudulent document, every forged signature, the legitimate mortgage was paid off by your husband. These new ones are voidable. You won't lose your home. Patricia finished her documentation. Mrs. Hart, we'll need you to file a police report for identity theft. The credit card fraud alone. Tomorrow, I said firmly. Tonight, she rests. Rodriguez handed me her card. The restraining order is temporary. You'll need to appear for the permanent order hearing. But given what I've witnessed, she shook her head. He won't be back. Men like that are cowards when faced with consequences. As the official vehicles departed, Mom and I stood in our reclaimed doorway. The house felt different, lighter, like windows had been opened after years of stale air. Your father, Mom said softly, he really thought of everything? He knew you'd need protection. He just made sure I could provide it. We went inside. I locked the new deadbolt with a satisfying click. On the kitchen counter sat the portfolio, Dad's carefully preserved proof that some love outlasts death, that some plans unfold exactly when they need to. What do we do now? Mom asked. I picked up the broken china, pieces of the set she'd saved for special occasions. Now, we clean up, we file charges, we restore your credit, and we make this the Hart house again. Cal will fight. He'll get lawyers. Let him. I held up a piece of the shattered plate. Mom's wedding china, broken by the man who'd promised to cherish her. He built his house on our foundation. Now watch it fall. Through the window, I could see the security system tech arriving, the appointment I'd made Monday. Knowing this moment would come. By midnight, new cameras would guard every entrance. The Hart house would never be vulnerable again. The countdown was over. Cal Whitaker's time had run out. And somewhere, I was certain, my father was smiling. The morning sun caught the brass letters perfectly. Hart house. I stepped back to admire my handiwork, power drill still warm in my hand. The original nameplate, found in Dad's study and polished to its former glory, now proclaimed the truth to everyone who passed by. It looks right, Mom said from beside me, coffee mug warming her hands, like it should have looked all along. 6 weeks had passed since Cal's dramatic exit. 6 weeks of paperwork, police reports, and legal procedures that peeled away his influence like old paint from wood. The fraudulent mortgages had been voided, the forged signatures too obvious once properly examined, the credit cards closed, the identity theft charges filed. Cal's house of cards had collapsed spectacularly. Certified mail, Marin announced, coming up the walkway. She'd practically moved in during the aftermath, helping us navigate the legal maze. The criminal trial date is set. The federal prosecutor says with Patricia's evidence and the paper trail, Cal's looking at serious time. What about Bryce? Mom asked. Turned state's witness to save himself. Marin grinned. Apparently, Daddy Dearest had been using his social security number too. Bryce decided family loyalty ended at federal prison. I wasn't surprised. Rats flee sinking ships, and the SS, Cal Whitaker was taking on water fast. The country club had revoked his membership after the local paper ran the story. Prominent businessman charged in elaborate fraud scheme. The headline had run with a photo of Cal being escorted from the courthouse in handcuffs. Ms. Hart? A young woman approached. courier bag slung across her shoulder. Delivery from Hartley and Associates. The law firm's name made me smile. Judge Hartley had come out of retirement specifically to oversee the trust transfer, ensuring every document was ironclad. Inside the envelope was the new deed, officially recorded, pristine, and bearing only one name: Noelle Elizabeth Hart. "It's really over," Mom murmured. "The legal part, yes." I linked my arm through hers. "The healing might take longer." She nodded. Dr. Sarah Kim, an actual psychiatrist, had been helping Mom understand how Cal had manipulated her: gaslighting, financial abuse, coercive control, terms that explained why a strong woman had become a shadow of herself. Slowly, that shadow was gaining substance again. "I've been thinking," Mom said. "Your father's study, it's been locked up too long. Maybe it's time to clean it out. Donate his books to the law library like he wanted." "Are you sure?" "He'd hate that it became Cal's cave. Tom loved light, openness. Let's restore that." We spent the afternoon in Dad's study, windows thrown wide. Each book we packed felt like reclaiming territory. In his desk drawer, I found another surprise: a letter in Dad's handwriting, addressed to both of us. "My dear girls," it began. "If you're reading this in my study, then you've weathered the storm I saw coming. Elaine, forgive yourself for trusting too much. It's not a weakness to love. Noelle, thank you for being the warrior I knew you'd become. The house is just walls and memories. You two are the home. Take care of each other." We cried then, healing tears that washed away months of fear and manipulation. The doorbell rang. My heart still jumped at unexpected visitors. Some habits die hard, but it was just Patricia DeWitt with a final update. "Thought you'd want to know," she said, accepting Mom's offer of coffee. "We've tracked down 12 more victims across 3 states. Cal's been running this game for over a decade. Your evidence broke it wide open. The FBI is calling it one of the most extensive elder fraud schemes they've seen." "Elder fraud?" Mom bristled. "I'm only 58. We laughed, the sound bright in the sunlit kitchen. "What happens to the other victims?" I asked. "Restitution, hopefully. Your documentation set the precedent. You saved a lot of people, Noelle." After Patricia left, I stood in the backyard where Dad had taught me to throw a softball. The grass needed cutting. The garden Mom had neglected was ready for new plants. Spring was coming to the Hart house. "You know what I want?" Mom said suddenly. "A party. A big, loud, happy party. Fill this house with friends, with laughter, chase away the last of the shadows." "Dad would love that." "He would," she smiled, and for the first time in years, it reached her eyes. "He also loved being right. Trust the plan, Elaine," he used to say. Even when I couldn't see it, he had a plan. That evening, as I locked the door with my keys, my house keys, I thought about plans and patience, about love that protects from beyond the grave. Dad had known I'd need time to grow strong enough to fight. The trust, the documents, the breadcrumbs, all waiting for the right moment. Cal had stolen 3 years, but he'd failed to steal what mattered: our home, our dignity, our truth. The porch light illuminated the nameplate. Hart House. Tomorrow, we'd plant Mom's garden. Next month, we'd host that party. And somewhere in the distance, Cal Whitaker would be learning that houses built on lies always fall. But houses built on love? Those stand forever. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing your thoughts. Your experiences and perspectives make our community richer. Until next time, remember, the truth has a way of surfacing, and love leaves the strongest foundations.